Hi dear students, good morning. So today we are going to start our next lesson. This is lesson number 3, States of Matter. In the last lesson we discussed about the chapter Green Earth and we studied about our environment and the things that we get from the environment. Then about pollution, different types of pollution and how to control or minimize pollution. Okay, so now we are going to start our next lesson, States of Matter. So what do you mean by matter? So everything that you see around us is made up of matter. So what do you mean by matter? We can see many things around us like either living or non-living things. All things are made up of matter. Matter means anything that occupies space and has mass are called matter. For example, your pencil, scale, table, chair, dustbin, blackboard, etc. are made up of matter. Okay, and here we know that our body is also made up of matter. So matter means anything. Matter is anything which occupies space and has weight. They are called matter. Okay. For example, all living and non-living things are also made up of matter. And the non-living things like rock, chair, table, dustbin, then blackboard, and your duster, etc. are made up of matter. Because they occupy space and has mass. And all living things like animals and human body, these are also made up of matter because they also have weight and occupies space. So matter is anything that occupies space and has mass are called matter. Okay. So what do you mean by matter? Matter is anything. Anything means it's either living or non-living things that we see around us. So first one is matter. M-A-T-T-E-R. Matter. M-A-T-T-E-R. Matter. So what do you mean by matter? Matter is anything. Anything means either living or non-living things and it just occupies space and has weight or mass. And these are called matter. So anything that occupies space, and has mass. Anything that occupies space and has mass are called matter and has mass. And has mass are called matter. So what do you mean by matter? Matter is anything which includes or living or non-living things. For example, chair, table, and your notebook, then instrument box, scale, pencil, pen, etc. are also made up of matter because they has a fixed mass and it occupies space. So we can say that they are made up of matter. Okay. So matter means anything that occupies space and has mass. Anything that occupies space and has mass are called matter. So anything, A-N-Y-T-H-I-N-G, anything that occupies, A-O-C-C-U-P-I-E-S, occupies space and has mass, and it is called matter. Okay, so in this chapter we are going to study about different states of matter, and before that the matter is made up of very tiny particles. Tiny means very small particles. All matters are made up of very small particles and they are invisible particles. So the invisible tiny particles or the small particles are called molecules. So molecules, and the molecules are still made up of very small particles and they are called atoms. So molecules and atoms. Molecules means all matter are made up of very small particles and they are invisible, and the invisible particles are called molecules. Then molecules are still made up of small particles and they are called atoms. Okay, so matter is made up of very small particles and it is called molecules. Molecules are invisible particles. M-O-L-E-C-U-L-E-S, molecules. So what do you mean by molecules? The matter is made up of very tiny particles. Tiny means very small particles and they are invisible, and the invisible particles are called molecules. And the molecules is still made up of very small particles and the very small particles are called atoms. A-T-O-M-S, atoms. Okay, so molecules and atoms. So matter is made up of invisible particles and they are called molecules, and the molecules are made up of still small particles and the very small particles are called atoms. So what do you mean by matter? Matter is anything which occupies space and has mass. So all the things around us, either living or non-living things, are made up of matter because they occupy space and has mass. For example, pencil, chair and body of human body, they are also made up of matter because they occupy space and has mass. And matter is made up of very small particles and they are invisible, and the invisible particles are called molecules, and the molecules is again made up of very small particles and the very small particles are called atoms. So all matter are made up of very tiny particles called atoms. Okay, then different states of matter. So which are the different states of matter? Mainly there are three states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. These are the three states of water: solid, liquid and gas. So before that, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass, and the matter is made up of invisible particles, invisible tiny particles called molecules, and the molecules is also made up of very small particles and these are called atoms. Then different states of matter. States of matter. So the three states of matter are solid, S-O-L-I-D, solid, then liquid, L-I-Q-U-I-D, liquid, and gas, G-A-S. So these are the three states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. Solids, liquids and gas. So matter exists in three states: solid, liquid and gas. So for example, solid state of matter is ice. Ice is an example of solid state, and water is the liquid form and water vapor is the gaseous form. So these are the three states of matter. So we can convert the states of matter from one state to another by heating or cooling. So solids, liquids and gas are the three states of matter. So which are the characteristics of each of the state? And the first one is solid state. see the different characteristics of solid, liquid and gaseous state. Okay. So here this picture shows solid state. Here you can see that the molecules are closely packed. There is no space between the molecules, so they are closely packed. In solid state, the molecules are closely packed because and so they have definite shape. So in a solid state or solid substance, they have definite shape and definite volume because there is no space between the molecules and the molecules are very closely packed. The molecules are very closely packed and the molecules are, the attraction between the molecules are higher. So these are solid state. So once again, in solid state, the molecules are closely packed. In solid state, the molecules are very closely packed. There is no space between the molecules. So these are very closely packed and they attract, and the attractive force is higher, and in solid state the particles are closely packed and they have definite shape. The molecules are closely packed and so they have definite shape and definite volume. For example, pencil is an example of solid state. Pencil, your pen, table, chair, these are solid state of matter because they have definite shape. A pencil has a definite shape, or if you consider a pen, then the pen has a definite shape. So because the molecules are closely packed, so they have definite shape and they have definite volume. Okay, so in solid state, the molecules are very closely packed and they have definite shape and definite volume, and the attractive force is higher. Then in liquid state, the molecules are loosely packed and the attractive force is smaller than solids. And in liquid state, liquid has no fixed shape but it has fixed volume. For example, if you consider water is an example of liquid state of matter. And the water take the shape of the container. If you take some water in your bottle, then the water take the shape of the bottle. Then if you take water to another container, then it take the shape of that container because water has no shape, no fixed shape. It takes the shape of the container. But it has fixed volume. But water has fixed volume, which means in liquid state, liquids have definite volume, but it have no fixed shape. And in gaseous state, gas have no fixed shape or no fixed volume. Because if you boil water in a pan, then the water changes into water vapor. Then we can see that the water vapor move freely because there is some spaces between the molecules in the gaseous state. Okay, so the molecules are far away. So the molecules are, there is no, in solid state there is no space between the molecules. The molecules are closely packed, and in gaseous state the molecules are far apart from each other. So they can move freely. In gaseous state the molecules can move very freely and the attractive force is smaller. So in gaseous state, in gaseous substances, it has no shape, no fixed shape, or definite, no fixed volume. So in solid state, they have definite shape and definite volume. They have definite shape and definite volume. But in liquid state, they have fixed volume, but no shape. In gaseous state, they have no fixed shape or no fixed volume. So these are the characteristics of solids, liquids and gaseous state. Okay. So once again, in solid state, the molecules are very closely packed and they cannot move freely because the molecules are very closely packed. And in solid state, solid substances, they have definite shape and definite volume. For example, pencil, pen, chair, these are examples of solid state. We cannot change the shape of solid state. Then, in liquid state, the molecules are not closely packed. There is some spaces between the molecules and so they have definite volume but they do not have definite shape. They have no fixed shape. They take the space of the shape of the container. Then in liquids or gaseous state, the molecules are very far apart from each other and so they can move very freely and the attraction between the molecule is very smaller. So they have no fixed shape or no fixed volume. So these are the characteristics of solids, liquids and gaseous. Okay. So solids have a definite shape and has definite volume, and in liquid state, liquid has definite volume but no fixed shape, and in gaseous state, gas has no fixed volume and no fixed shape. So what do you mean by volume? Matter is anything which occupies space and has mass. And what do you mean by volume? And the amount of space that any matter occupies is called volume. The amount of space that any matter occupies is called volume. Okay. So volume, V-O-L-U-M-E, volume. So what do you mean by volume? The amount of matter occupies, the amount of space in matter occupies is called volume. The amount of space that any matter occupies is called volume. Okay, and difference between solids, liquids and gas. Solids, in solids, molecules are closely packed and they cannot move freely. So they have definite shape. Solids have a definite shape. So in solid state, the molecules are very closely packed, so they have definite shape. But in liquids, the molecules are loosely packed, so they do not have a definite shape. Do not have a definite shape. Do not have a definite shape. And in gaseous state, the molecules are very far apart from each other. So because they are very loosely packed, so they have no fixed shape. They have no fixed shape. Gaseous have no fixed shape. Then volume. In solids, they have definite volume. Have definite volume. Solids have definite volume. Definite volume. Liquids. So liquids do not have definite shape, but they have definite volume. Liquids have a definite volume. Have a definite volume. Have a definite volume. But in gaseous state, they have no fixed volume because the molecules are very far apart from each other. They can move very freely, so they have no fixed volume. Have no fixed volume. No fixed volume. So comparison between solids, liquids and gaseous state. So solids have a definite shape. Solids have a definite shape and liquids do not have a definite shape, and the gaseous state have no fixed shape. And in solids they have definite volume, and in liquid state they have a definite volume, but in gaseous state they do not have fixed volume. In solid state the molecules are very closely packed, and in liquid state the molecules are loosely packed, and in gaseous state the molecules are very far apart from each other. Okay, so in solid state the molecules are very closely packed, so they have definite shape and definite volume. All solid substances have definite shape and definite volume. For example, your pencil, notebook, chair, table, these are solid states of matter, and they have a definite shape and definite volume. And next stage is liquids, and in liquids the molecules are loosely packed, and there is some spaces between the molecules, and they do not have definite shape, and they take the shape of the container. For example, if you take some water in a bottle, then the water take the shape of the bottle. Then if you take the water in another container, then it takes the shape of that container. Which means they do not have definite shape, but they have definite volume. Liquids are definite volume. And in gaseous state, the molecules are very loosely packed. The molecules are far apart from each other, so they do not have fixed shape and do not have definite volume. Okay, so in solid state they have definite shape and definite volume, but in liquid state they do not have definite shape, but they have definite volume. But in gaseous state they have no fixed shape or fixed volume. Okay, so you write the difference between solids, liquids and gaseous in your class book, and study the difference very well and send to my WhatsApp. So take your textbook and take the page number 145 and rest of third lesson, states of matter. So what do you mean by matter? Anything which has occupied space and has mass are called matter. And the matter is made up of very tiny means very small particles, and they are invisible, and the invisible particles are called molecules. And the molecules is still made up of small particles, and the small particles are called atoms. Then the matter exists in three states: solids, liquids and gas. So solids are definite shape and definite volume, but liquids are definite, they have definite shape, definite volume, but they do not have definite shape. In gaseous state, gases have no fixed shape and they have no fixed volume. Okay, so take the page number 145 and look at your textbook and listen carefully. The topic is matter, M-A-T-T-E-R, matter. Everything that you see around you, which is either living or non-living, may look different from each other, but they all have something in common. They all occupy space and have weight. So if you consider anything around us like living or non-living thing, and they occupy space and mass because they are made up of matter. All things that occupy space and have weight is matter. Here are some things around us: tree, then gas cylinder, bottle, pencil box, chair. These all are matter because they are made up of very small particles called molecules, and again the molecules are also made up of tiny particles, and the tiny particles are called atoms. Okay, so here you can see that these are non-living things, but these are made up of matter, and these are solid states of matter. Inside the gas cylinder, the gas is in the gaseous state, and chair is a solid state of matter. Bottle is solid state, and if we take water inside the bottle, then water is the liquid state of matter, and your pencil box is solid state of matter. And if you are consider your textbook is the solid state of matter. Okay. Then what makes up matter? All matter we see around us is in itself made up of very small and tiny particles that are not visible to us. We cannot see the particles present in the matter. They are invisible particles. Billions and billions of these tiny particles aggregate to form matter. These invisible particles are called molecules. The molecules are made up of still smaller particles called atoms. So all matter are made up of very tiny particles called molecules, and the molecules is still made up of tiny particles, and the small particles are called atoms. Then the three states of matter. So which are the three states of matter? Solids, liquids and gas. These are the three states of matter. So matter exists in three states. Which are the three states of matter? Solids, liquid and gas. These are the three states of matter. So take the next page. And the first one is solids. Here these are examples of solid state, and here you can see that this picture shows the characteristics of solid state. Here the molecules are very closely packed and they cannot move freely, so they have definite shape and definite volume. Okay, and look at your textbook. Most of the things you see around are solids. If you place your book or pencil box at different places, it will occupy the same space. If you press it with your fingers, its shape will not change. If you press your pencil or pen or our pencil box with our fingers, the shape is not changed because they are solid states of matter. They have definite shape. The molecules in solid states are very closely packed. They cannot move freely. Then this is because the book and the pencil box are solids. So we can conclude that solids have a definite shape. Solids have a fixed shape. If you consider your textbook, it's a solid state and it has definite shape because the molecules are very closely packed. Okay. And if you consider your pen or pencil, it has definite shape. So they are solid states of matter. Then solids have definite volumes as they occupy a definite space. The shape of some solids like a rubber ball can, however, temporarily be changed by applying force. Okay, so this is the molecular arrangement in solids. The molecules are very closely packed in solids. They cannot move freely. So solids are definite shape and definite volume. Understood? Then the next state is liquids. So for example, liquids can flow. Milk, water, these are liquids because they can flow. They can move freely and the molecules are loosely packed. Okay. And milk is a liquid. If you take a glass of milk or water and pour it into a bottle, the milk or water will take the shape of the bottle. If you pour it into a cup or pan, it will take the shape of the cup or pan. Hence, we can conclude that, which means if you take some water or some liquids in a container, then the liquid take the shape of the container, which means they have no fixed shape. Okay. So liquids do not have a definite shape. Liquids do not have a definite shape because they can move freely. The molecules are loosely packed. They can move freely. They take the shape of the container that they are poured in. They can flow because their molecules are loosely packed and can move around. So the molecules in liquid states are loosely packed and they can move around freely. So they do not have definite shape. But liquids are definite volume. Liquids have a definite volume. For example, as they occupy definite space, if you take 500 milliliter of milk, will remain 500 milliliter even if you place it in a different shaped containers without using any of it. Okay, if you take some 500 milliliter of milk in a bottle, then you transfer same quantity, which means 500 milliliter into another container. Then the volume is same. Then the amount of matter is same, which means liquids are definite volume. Liquids are definite volume. Okay, so liquids do not have definite shape, but they have definite volume. Then here, these are examples of liquids. Here, this is the molecular arrangement in liquids. Here you can see that there is some spaces between the molecules and the molecules can move freely and the molecules are loosely packed. So they have fixed volume but they do not have fixed shape because the molecules are loosely packed. And here you can see that if you take some water in a glass, then it takes the shape of the glass. If you take some water on the bottle, then it takes the shape of the bottle. If you take tea on a cup, then take the shape of the cup. Okay. So like this, liquids take the shape of the container they are in. If the liquid is in a glass, then it takes the shape of the glass. If you take some water or some other liquid into in a bottle, then it takes the shape of the bottle. Okay. So liquids do not have definite shape, but it has definite volume. Then the third state is gaseous state. So gases, if you boil water in a pan, it changes into water vapor, which is a gas. So if you take some water and if you heat the water, then it changes into water vapor. And water vapor is the gaseous form of water. Okay. Water vapor, the smoke which comes out a chimney, has no definite shape and therefore fills up all the space it can get. Hence, we can conclude that gases have no fixed shape. This is because the molecules in gases are far apart from each other and are free to move in the space available to them. Gases have no fixed volume. The molecules of a gas can be squeezed into a container or can spread out in the whole room. So, which means the molecules in gaseous state can move very freely because there is a lot of space between the molecules, so they can move freely. Okay, so they can spread in the whole room or spread in the space it can get. So they cannot fix a shape or fix a volume. So these are the difference between three states of matter. They are solids, liquids and gaseous. So in solid state, solids are definite shape and definite volume, and in liquids, liquids are definite volume but they do not have definite shape. And in gaseous state, they do not have definite shape or do not have definite volume. So these are the difference between solids, liquids and gases. For example, gases, we need oxygen to breathe. Okay, and oxygen is a gas. Oxygen is a gas and that is very important for us to live. And all living things need oxygen, and oxygen is a form of gas. Oxygen has no fixed shape or do not have fixed volume. Then, and all the things around us made up of matter. All the things like either living or non-living things is also made up of matter. And a liquid has no shape but it has definite volume. A liquid has no shape but it has definite volume. Okay, so these are the things that we discussed in this class. And here in your textbook, page number 147, here are some questions. Try and answer. And the first question is, why does an empty gas cylinder weigh less than a filled one? Okay, an empty gas cylinder or the weight of an empty gas cylinder is lesser than the filled one because an empty gas cylinder, there is no molecules or no matter present inside them. So, they weigh lesser than the filled one. Then, arrange the following on the basis of the space that they would occupy. Table, a glass of water and oxygen. Also predict the states of matter in the above cases. So, a table occupies more spaces compared to glass of water and oxygen. And here you can see that table is the solid state of matter. A glass of water is the liquid state of matter, and oxygen is the gaseous state of matter. And here some fill up questions. Fill in the blanks. Oxygen is a dash that is very important for all living things, living beings. Oxygen is a gas. Oxygen is a gas that is very important for all living beings. So we need all living things need oxygen for breathing. Then second question, all the things that we see around us are one of the other states of matter. All the things around us are the other states of matter because they are made up of tiny particles called molecules and they are made up of matter. Okay. Then a liquid has dash shape but a dash volume. A liquid has no shape. A liquid has no shape but a definite volume. So these are the answers of try and answer section. So today we learned about matter and different states of matter. So what do you mean by matter? Anything which has occupied space and has mass are called matter, and the matter is made up of very small or tiny particles called molecules, and the molecules are still made up of tiny particles called atoms. And the matter exists in three states: solids, liquids and gas. In solid state, the molecules are very closely packed and they cannot move freely. But in liquid state, compared to solids, the molecules are loosely packed and they can move around. And in gaseous state, the molecules are very loosely packed. The molecules are far apart from each other, so they can move very freely. So we can conclude have definite volume but do not have definite shape because the molecules are loosely packed. And in gaseous state, the molecules have no fixed shape or no fixed volume because they are loosely, very loosely packed. They are very far apart from each other. So they have no fixed shape or no fixed volume. And the liquids take the shape of the container. Okay, so they have no fixed shape. So these are the things that we discussed today. So matter and the three states of matter. Which are the three states of matter? Solids, liquids and gas. Solids, liquids and gas. For example, gas, smoke, water vapor. These are examples of gaseous state. And in liquid state, example, liquids can flow, so milk, water, etc. examples for liquid state. And in solid state, example, yes, your pencil, instrument box, chair, table, chalk. Chalk is also made up of matter and it has definite shape. So the chalk is the solid state of matter. So solids, liquid and gas are the three states of matter. So these are the things that we discussed today. So you read your textbook more and more times, and the textbook reading is very important. So you read your textbook up to the portion gases, and next portions there is changes in states of matter, then kinds of changes like physical and chemical changes, then dissolving substances in water, and different solutions, about solutions that we discussed in the next class. Okay, so you read your textbook more and more times and study the difference between solids, liquids and gases, and write the differences in your class book and send to my WhatsApp. Okay, so now today let's wind up our class and we will meet with another class on next day. Okay students, study well, have a nice day. Thank you.